Welcome to Unbelievable. I am Boo. On today's episode, I'm joined by Ryan Tamari. We're going to talk about 5 big questions going into Super Bowl 50. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so today we are talking about 5 big questions going into Super Bowl 50. Like I said, I'm joined by my best friend, Ryan Tamari, basically my sports expert. Ryan, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
My background is a degree from UNM in print journalism, and I was a sports writer for 3.5 years for the UNM student newspaper and covering UNM athletics. I did have a stint at the Albuquerque Journal for a year with the sports desk.
Anyway, let's get into it. So we're going to start with question number 5. Whose season have we been most impressed with so far? The Carolina Panthers or the Denver Broncos? Tamari, you go first on this one.
This is kind of, to a certain degree, an open-ended question. I personally have been impressed with both teams. I don't think, if you go back, I think Carolina was huge odds in Vegas preseason. I don't think anybody even saw them winning maybe 8, 9, 10 games, and they go 15-1. And if memory serves me correctly, a lot of those games they came back and won, or they were close games, rather than the latter part of the season where they had been really kind of destroying people. But you also have to give Denver credit. Their offense has not been a traditional Peyton Manning-esque offense. They've done it with defense, which is something is my personal favorite. They've got a great linebacking core with DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller. You know, these things are well known. The secondary is outstanding with Cordell Roby, Chris Harris Jr., Aqib Talib. I would probably say Carolina, though, if I had to narrow it down to one. They have the opportunity to go 18-1 and be the second or third team to ever do that, actually. So that by a little stretch of the margin is more impressive to me.
Nice. Me personally, I'm switching on this question. I've been thinking Carolina, especially the last few days, but I'm going to go with Denver. The reason why is I feel like Denver has really kind of overcome a lot of odds that maybe previous teams that have gotten to the Super Bowl haven't. I mean, they had Osweiler come in, a little bit during midseason. A lot of people thought Peyton Manning had played his last game. And I really think that they shown that this team is for real. And every time I kept doubting their legitness, basically, whether they were worthy of being in the Super Bowl, their defense stepped up, and they've proven me wrong every time. Peyton Manning, I don't want to get it twisted, though. I thought Peyton Manning had a very rough regular season. I think he had a rough divisional game. The championship game, I thought he played probably the best he has in a while. And really, if you look at the drives, they weren't amazing, but he made the plays when he had to. And, I mean, that's what you want out of your quarterback. If he can make those plays in Super Bowl 50, which he's going to have to do, I think it'll be big for him. But I've really been just impressed with the Broncos. I really thought that this was the Patriots Super Bowl to come into, starting from the first game of the season against Pittsburgh. I thought when they beat Pittsburgh, they clearly showed they were still the class of the AFC. And throughout the season, I thought they continued to show that. But then those last 2 games dropping to Miami and to the Jets, right?
Yeah, I was at the Jets game.
Yeah, and he was at the Jets game. And losing those 2 games, I think, a lot of people said that the Patriots lost them on purpose or were kind of playing vanilla. Well, it ended up biting them. I think we'd have a very different game if the AFC Championship had been in Foxborough instead of Denver.
I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think actually I've just been more impressed with Denver that they were able to weather the storm, weather the criticism, weather the mini QB controversy, and end up going to Super Bowl 50. So I'm going to go with Denver that I've been more impressed with. And that's kind of weird because I've been talking up Carolina, I've been talking up for the last few weeks. But when you really look at it, I'm just impressed Denver is actually playing in this game. All right, question number 4 now is what, Tamari?
The X factor of the game.
The X Factor, our most important player going into the game. I'll start off on this one. I think the X Factor easily is the future MVP of this season to be announced here on Saturday, I believe. Cam Newton. I think he's the most important player in the game. If he plays his A game, top-notch A game, what he can do with running the ball, passing the ball, I think he's making some of the best decisions he's ever made in his career of when to do either. If he comes out and plays to his game, I think no question he'll be the most important and impactful player on the field, and he'll end up being the MVP of Super Bowl 50 if he can do that. If he can't do that, I mean, who knows? But I really think going into the game, he is the most important player for both teams. I mean, how is Denver going to adapt to what he can do? They've never faced a quarterback like this all season. They haven't. I mean, the AFC just doesn't have quarterbacks like that. We know Tom Brady got beat up big time in the championship game, but Tom Brady can't move like Cam can. He's not as big as Cam. And so I'm interested to just see exactly how Denver's going to respond to Cam, but that's my most impactful player.
Mine would probably be, I'm going out on a limb here, is Owen Daniels, tight end for the Denver Broncos. He caught 2 touchdown passes that were essentially wide open. He burned Chandler Jones, if I'm mistaken, the New England Patriots linebacker. He might have a big day because simply Peyton can't throw the deep ball down the field like he can with Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, and I've heard that Demaryius Thomas has had a bit of a drop season this year. I didn't personally see it, but if Owen Daniels can beat Shaq Thomas, Carolina Panthers linebacker, Thomas Davis with his broken arm and the metal in his arm, and Luke Kuechly, I don't know if Luke Kuechly will be guarding him. But Owen Daniels can get open and did what he did against New England. I could see him being the X factor, but if I could throw it out on them there, I have 2 more on the side. Would be DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, and simply stated for rushing Cam Newton. But Owen Daniels is mine.
All right, Owen Daniels, and I mean, like I said, he did have that huge, or like you said, he had that huge AFC Championship game. All right, question number 3. We're having Broncos defense versus Carolina's offense. Okay, which of those is going to have the most impact on the game? Is it going to be the Broncos defense or Carolina's offense? Me personally, I think in order for the Broncos to have a chance in this game, that defense has to play exactly the way they played against New England. They have to get at Cam Newton. They have to get at him. They have to knock him on the ground. No matter if they sack him or not, they need to hurt him and make him start having that little voice in the back of his head saying that these rushers are coming to get me. I think that is going to be the big difference. If they can do that, then like I said, I think they have a really good shot in this game. If they can't, I think it could get ugly quick.
I would agree that it could get ugly quick. Denver's defense is, I don't want to throw a bunch of stats at you, but Denver's defense, total defense was number 1. A lot of talk about them being incorporated legendary defenses in the history of the NFL. And then to flip the switch real quick, Carolina's offense, 31.5 points per game. They led the NFL in total scoring. I would think that that Denver's defense might have the more impact because they could definitely make a statement early in the game like we have seen in past Super Bowls. But I would think that Denver's defense would have to make more of an impact quickly and set the tone for this game. Or as you just said, it's going to be a long day, and we might see glimpses of the divisional round that Carolina had against Seattle and what happened in the NFC title game 2 weeks ago or a week ago. And
I mean, not to say that I don't think much of Carolina's offense. I think a lot about it. In fact, like I said, Carolina's offense, if they can go off quickly. As we saw what they did against Seattle in the divisional round, that was one of the best first halves of football I've ever seen offensively by a team in NFL history that I've ever watched. I mean, it was domination. Again, they can kill you in a lot of different ways. Cam Newton's arm doesn't get enough respect that I think it should be getting at this point because he can hit his targets, he can hit them quickly, and then plus they do a lot of good plays with him, a lot where they're really fooling those backers to kind of come up at him. You know, a lot of play action passes, and he's been real efficient at getting that ball out quickly. And also, when things break down, he's running the ball. And here's one thing I want to say. I think Cam Newton is going to be the leading rusher in Super Bowl 50. Moving on to question number 2. Is this Peyton Manning's final game? His last rodeo? Tamari, your thoughts?
I don't think so. I think if they lose, he may be cut by the Broncos, and I think he may go try to salvage one last year somewhere else. If they do win, then I would think it's his last rodeo, but I don't think so. I think he's still got enough, call him the $6 million man with the bionic arm, or whatever you want to call him, but I think he may still, if they lose this game, he still may have one more year left in him.
And what team would you think he'd potentially go to?
I would think
it'd have to be a contender. Peyton Manning's too old to go to some situation where he has to rebuild. He doesn't have that number of years.
I think maybe Houston. They kind of quietly snuck into the postseason this year, and they've got a good enough defense. They've got notable names such as Brian Cushing and obviously J.J. Watt. He's got a number 1 wide receiver there in Hopkins.
Yeah, see, I'm not too sure. For me personally, I think this is his last game regardless of what happens. He wins, absolutely his last game. There's no better way to end a Hall of Fame career than with a Super Bowl ring title. You know, he'll have 2 Super Bowls. A lot of people saying he needs that 2nd Super Bowl to cement his legacy.
He would at least be 500 in the Super Bowl.
Exactly. I think it is important for him to get that 2nd Super Bowl, especially considering his brother Eli has another Super Bowl ring. I think this, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer for sure, but I think this helps his legacy greatly if he gets the 2nd ring. And I think he'll run right off into the sunset. Even if they lose, I feel like this season was real eye-opening for him. I mean, the commentators on CBS, and don't even get me started on Phil Simms and Jim Nantz, and even some of the other networks, they really talk up Manning, and he's earned that, trust me. He's earned that being talked up, and he is a great quarterback, but he is not the great quarterback that we saw back in Indy, back with his 2nd year with the Broncos. He is not that guy anymore. And I think it's a real disservice, a lot of people talking him up to that level, because he's clearly not that guy anymore. And I think when he sees the tape, he sees what the fans are seeing. And trust me, when we see that, we see the ducks he's throwing, we see the loss of arm strength. He can't make certain passes that you need to be able to make in this league. And I think when he actually reflects and takes some time from after the Super Bowl, I think he'll realize, you know, this probably is it for me, and I think I had a good enough career. All right, and moving on to our number 1 question, who will win Super Bowl 50? Ryan, give us your thoughts. Also, give us a prediction on the score, potentially.
I don't see this game being close. I potentially see Carolina winning 30-10. At least double. If it's not double digits, I mean, I'm wrong, but I'm going with double digits. Carolina 30-10, 30-13.
Okay, so 30-10 or 30-13, and he was picking Carolina. I'm going with Carolina also. I'm going with a little different score. I'm going to go 28-10 is my final score of Super Bowl 50. MVP, Cam Newton. Your MVP?
If it's 30-10, maybe I'll go the route of 2 years ago with, you know, it's always the unsung heroes in the Super Bowl. Maybe the secondary, Chris Coleman. My goodness, his name is escaping me right now. The defensive lineman for Carolina, Kawan Short, I think. Maybe you should just give Thomas Davis the MVP for playing with a plate in his arm.
I know, that is absolutely ridiculous. Thomas Davis saying he's going to play. We know he has a few nuts and bolts in his arm and a metal plate.
Not just a few, like 11 or 12.
Yeah, it's almost close to double digits or in double digits, and a metal plate in his arm. But his simple response is, it is the Super Bowl, which is absolutely insane. But anyway, I think we can both say that we're hoping for a good Super Bowl. Nobody likes to watch a blowout. I'm definitely not going to lie to you. I'm not the biggest Peyton Manning fan, but I don't want to see him get blown out again. I think that actually hurts his legacy if they were to get just blown out again.
Just a quick thought on that: the 3 Super Bowls he's played in, the 2 losses were to the Saints was 43-8 against Seattle 2 years ago with Denver, but it's not like this is the Peyton Manning of 2 years ago or the Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. You know, he struggled this year, so maybe the blowout wouldn't hurt his legacy as bad.
That's it for today's episode. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button or subscribe. Also, hit us in the comments section. Who do you like to win Super Bowl 50? Who do you think is going to be MVP? Do you have a score prediction? Who's going to be your most impactful player? Anyway, it's been unbelievable having you. Take care.